Hello everybody, it's Dio from Firm But Fair Gaming bringing you another video. Enjoying all the videos and content we produce, don't forget to click on that subscribe button, click on that like button, and don't be afraid to share. Don't forget to click on the notification button, customize it however you want, but that way you're notified whenever we publish another video. Hello everyone, welcome to another Diablo 3 video here in Season 26. Today we are taking a look at the monk again, and another build that we're going to look at is the Patterns of Justice. So this was one of the very first ones that I played when it first came out for the monk, and it was one of my favorites and actually switched me into a bit of a monk player at that time. Previously I was always a witch doctor, and then this set came out and I switched to monk and pushed that season, and it was a lot of fun. So for those that are unfamiliar with the set, let's just go over the bonuses. So the two-piece bonus is Sweeping Wind gains the effect of every rune, and movement speed is increased by 5% for each stack of Sweeping Wind. So this is just helps us with our mobility. Our four pieces, attacking with Tempest Rush reduces your damage taken by 50% and increases your spirit regeneration by 50%. And lastly, the six pieces, hitting with Tempest Rush while Sweeping Wind is active increases the size of Sweeping Wind and also increases all damage dealt by 15,000%. So obviously we're going to be using both Tempest Rush and Sweeping Wind in this build. All right, let's get into the itemization. Just threw up some gameplay footage so you can see that just in a 95, just so you can kind of see how it works. Obviously, there's a much higher upside potential to it, but I just wanted to give you guys something to look at so you can see how it works. So the items that we need in this build is going to be, so we're rocking Ring of Royal Grandeur, so we're going to be wearing 5 pieces of the set as well as the Captain Crimson set. So the items that we're going to wear here is you're going to need the helm, the shoulders, the chest, the gloves, and then because we're also wearing Captain Crimson's, either the pants or the boots, depending on whatever you have the better version of. Because we can craft the Captain Crimson's, so that is craftable, so we can just do our bounties and then make it. We're going to use whatever one we need to make, because like whichever one we have the better of that we find of the natural set, we'll wear that, and then we can just craft until we get a better version of the opposite into like the Captain Crimson, whether it's the pants or the boots. And then to complement the set, we're going to be using a squirts. This is pretty helpful for because we can avoid damage pretty good, as well as we have Serenity, so we have 4 seconds of immunity, which will help us build our squirts bonus. So for those that aren't familiar, squirts necklace here is while not taking damage, your damage delta is increased by up to 100%, and then your damage taken is increased by up to 50%. Also, additionally, like if we get a shield pylon, we're always going to have that 100% bonus because we won't be taking any damage. The bracers that go with this set is Cesar's Memento, so this increases the damage enemies take from our Tempest Rush for 5 seconds after we hit them with the Blind Freeze or Stun, and one of our abilities is going to be Blinding Flash. Also, for our rings, we're going to be using Convention of Elements. So this is going to be cycling through, and during our elemental cycle, we're going to get that 200% increased damage. So when that comes up, we're going to be hitting them with a Blinding Flash and then popping our Tempest Rush to deal the maximum amount of damage. And then for survivability, we are using Unity in the other ring slot. And then, of course, our follower is also wearing Unity, because Unity, all damage taken, is split between wearers of this item. So this is basically going to give us a 50% damage reduction, because, of course, our follower also have a relic or focus or token that they can't die. So then that will give us that 50% damage reduction, because 50% of our damage is going to go to them and they can't die. For our weapons, we are going to be using Wan Kim Lao. So hitting with Tempest Rush will activate Cyclone Strike, and both skills deal 510% increased damage. So this is going to buff our Tempest Rush, as well as going to benefit from our set where we get the 15,000% more damage. So we're going to use that. And then here is where you can kind of pick and choose what you want as the other weapon. We also want to use Azure Wrath because it's got the cold damage unique elemental modifier on it, and Tempest Rush is cold damage. So we want to use that. But in farming, I wanted to throw this out there. We can use Vengeful Wind as well because it increases the maximum stack count of Sweeping Wind by 10%, as well as the damage, and then of course the H stack of Sweeping Wind gives us movement speed. So if we're in farm mode, we can use this so we can just, clear bounties really quickly or farm rifts, whatever we're doing. So if you want a speed build, we'll swap that in as well. Because in speeds, generally you're blowing everything up, so you don't need damage. So we take this for movement. Taking a look at the cube, we've already touched on it a little bit. So of course we're using the Ring of Royal Grandeur because, as you can see, we are using 5-piece as well as the Captain Crimson. For the weapon, we want balance. So this is a Diablo. The damage of Tempest Rush is increased by 600%, and when your Tempest Rush hits 3 or fewer enemies, it gains 100% critical hit chance, so that'll be handy against Rift Guardians. And then, of course, for our armor, we're using Mantle of Channeling. So while we're channeling Tempest Rush, we're going to deal 25% increased damage and take 25% reduced damage. For our legendary gems, we are going to be using Tagak. So we're going to gain a % increased damage for 1.5 seconds when we spend resource on a channeled skill. This stacks up to 10 times. Tempest Rush channeled skill, so we're going to get that. And then at the rank 25, we're going to get 2% increased armor for every stack. And then for our other gem, one of the other ones, we're going to use Bane of the Stricken. So each attack you make against an enemy increases the damage it takes by a certain percentage. And then at rank 25, gain 25% increased damage against bosses and Rift Guardians. So we need this for pushing to help get down the elites, as well as when we get to the Rift Guardian. And then, of course, lastly, we're going to be using Bane of the Trap. Increased damage against enemies under the effects of control and parrying effects by X%. And then at rank 25, we gain an aura that gives us that movement speed reduction of our enemies, thus proccing the Bane of the Trapped. And then for our gems, or normal gems, if you will, to put in our armor, we're going to use the diamond into our helmet, as well as diamonds into our armor. So the diamond in the helmet, of course, gives us cooldown. Armor gives us resist all. Dexterity turns into armor, so we're already going to have high armor from that. So the resist all here that we get from the diamonds is going to help us be a little bit tankier when we come into the magic damage. And then I just noticed that I didn't bother to put in any gems into my weapons. Obviously here we're going to be using the emeralds here for the critical hit damage. So we should be using these, just grab that. So of course in the weapon, it increases critical hit damage by 130%. So you'll put that into both weapons. Okay, for our skills, we are going to be using Epiphany with Desert Shroud. So this is going to increase our spirit regen, as well as give us some survivability, some damage reduction. It does have the also benefit that we would be able to teleport to our targets and attack them instantly. However, that would break our channel of Tempest Rush, so we don't actually want to use that. We're also going to be using Blinding Flash with Faith in the Light. So it's going to blind all nearby enemies and increase our damage for a short duration after using the blind. So this is going to work with our bracers, where it's going to enable us to deal way more damage. So we want to blind enemies before we pop our channeled ability. Don't worry, I'll go over that in the rotation in a little bit. Of course, next, our mage damage ability, we're going to be using Tempest Rush with Flurry. So we're going to be able to charge through our enemies, dealing cold damage. And after we stop channeling Tempest Rush, we're going to do a blast of frost damage based on how many stacks we have. And the more stacks, the more damage it's going to do. We're then going to also have Sweeping Wind. So this, of course, is going to increase our damage as well as to give us some move speed. So we're going to use that. And basically, we're going to have a vortex around us. It's going to pull enemies in and give us more spirit. A defensive here, we're going with Serenity with Ascension. So this is going to put a bubble around us that makes us immune to all attacks and control impairing effects for 4 seconds. And then also we're going to use Mantra Salvation with Agility. So it is going to increase our resistance to all elements, as well as give us a dodge chance for extra survivability. For our passives, we're using the Guardian's Pass, so while we're dual wielding, we get a 35% chance to dodge incoming attacks. Using Seize the Initiative, dealing damage to enemies above 75%, increases our attack speed. And then also we're going to be using Relentless Assault, so we're going to deal 20% more damage to enemies that are blind, frozen, or stunned. So we definitely want to use that because, of course, we're using Blinding Flash. And then lastly, we're using Beacon of Ytar to reduce our cooldowns so that our Epiphany and Ascension and all that stuff comes off cooldown way quicker. Okay, for the rotation. So, as I said, we wanted to make sure that we're exploding on our cold cycle. So, as you can see here, we're rotating through on our convention of elements. So, just waiting to see. Cold, I believe, follows lightning. Watch me be wrong. Yep, it's after physical. I knew as soon as I said it. Anyway, so here's our cold. So, that is when we would want to pop off. So, basically, what we're going to do is you'd put up your sweeping wind, and then you would start channeling. As you can see here, we have the Tempest Rush accumulating, and then when that pops off, like if we stop, it would explode for damage. So what we want to do is we want to be channeling, going through, building stacks. We're in our cold, we want to blind and then explode, and that will be the maximum amount of damage that we can deal. So that's ideally what we want to do. Is run, 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 run. Ideally, like this will get up to 100. You'll never really hit 100 between cold cycles. But if you want, you can let one cold cycle go through. See, like we got to about 50, so you could let it go through, get to 100, and then when you get back in the cold, you could blind and pop. Obviously, that wasn't on cold, but I was just doing that for just to show you. For the senses abilities, like, or I guess I'll cover this. Like, obviously, this is falling off in town because I'm not hitting anything. But as long as we hit a target, that will refresh and it'll stay up and it'll give us our stacks. And then we'll want to use Serenity when Epiphany is down or if we're going to die. And then as we're going to have extra spirit, we can kind of pop our Mantra of Salvation kind of on CD. So as soon as it falls off, we can refresh it. And then, as I said earlier, we're going to blind and stop channeling and blow up on our cold cycle. Now, this might get a little bit hard on the hand, just holding this down. And so some people will put this on the mouse, then you can just hold down the left button or the right button and you're constantly channeling. After a season of playing that, like it does get sore on the hand, on the fingers. So what I do is you can do a trick if you put it on one of the 1 through 4 here. You can actually, on your keyboard, press down, if a nums lock is on, you can press down on 1 and press nums lock and it turns num lock off. And then your guy will just instantly channeling. So like I'm not even holding my mouse right now or pressing the keyboard and he's just running back and forth. Obviously I turned him around. And then anytime that you actually want to pop off, like and blow up, then not on my numpad, because if I was to turn numlock back on and press 1 again, he would stop like this. So I put numlock back on, press 1, he stops. Now I'm turning it back on. Now if I want him to blow up, so as you can see, he's building stacks, I would just press 1 on my keyboard, not on the numlock, not on the numpad, but just over there, and he blows up whenever I want him to. So here I'm just constantly blowing him up. So that is one way to do it to save your hand, because it does get kind of tough after a while from just constantly holding down the button, especially if you're a little bit older like I'm getting. But anyways, and then whenever you want him to stop, you would just turn numlock back on and then press the 1 key and he would stop. And you can do that for any channeled ability that you want, or like I'm thinking like Fire Bats for the Witch Doctor would do that as well. So you could do that for any classes where there's a channeling ability. Use that numlock trick. It's incredibly helpful. But yeah, so that covers the rotation part of this video. And actually, that's going to bring us to the end of the video. So if you have any questions or comments, please let me know below. I'll do my best to answer them. This build is a lot of fun because you can go around, you build up those stacks, and then you just blind, pop off during the cold, and you can one-shot huge stacks. Like it's a pretty big AoE blast. You can just take down elites from full health after building up enough stricken on them. And that'll be the other thing when you're pushing later. You'll just forego one cold cycle to make sure you get to 100, go along, and then, you know, build up all those stricken stocks. And then when you pop off, you'll either one shot them or take off huge chunks. This isn't the top build because obviously the Inamonk is top, but this is right up there already this season. I believe some people are doing like high 130s, maybe 140 by the time this video goes out. So it is viable, it is fun, and it's very enjoyable. And it's not too hard to get all the items that we need. So anyways, I'm rambling enough for right now. So that's the end of the video. Let me know if you have any questions or comments. Please let me know below. As always, we appreciate likes, shares, and subscribe. So please click those buttons And of course, keep coming back for more videos here for Diablo 3 Season 26. We hope you're having fun, and we'll see you in the next video.